Hello, BookTube. I have a tag for you. I realized belatedly that I didn't do a tag on Sunday. And fortunately, Will, the Bald Book Geek, came to the rescue with a tag that he tagged me in. I saw it on Twitter this morning. And it's just the kind of tag I love. I don't know how I missed it. I don't know how I didn't do it. The kind of tag I love. I mean, I love them all. I love listening to all of the bookish answers. But as you know by now, the tag I especially love are the personal tags where we get to know each other a little. We have all the time in the world to talk about books, but I also want to know, I'm nosy. I want to know little details. And this is called the Get to Know Me tag. If I've done this already, I do not remember it. I don't think I have, because a lot of the questions struck me as new. I thought we'd get right to them. It's a bunch of questions about me. Number one is, are you named after anybody? No. Question number two, when was the last time you cried? Now, last time I did a pokey, personal, nosy tag that asked a question like this, when was the last time you cried? I said that it was about my old dogs. I had, those of you who might be new to the channel, when I started this channel, I had two old, sick dogs in the slow, steady decline at the end of their lives, where I was transitioning my whole life from being a dog owner to being a caretaker. Much more present, much more patient, and lots of medical supplies. First, one of them died, and then a season later, the other one died. And I now have a new dog. I have a little puppy. And I mentioned the answer to last time, when's the last time you cried? I mentioned that grief broils around underneath the surface of you. You undergo the explosive ripping of it at the moment of loss, yes. But that isn't all. That isn't the end of grief. It burrows underground then, and it roils around. And I think that's healthy, in a way. I think part of that is a healthy reminder to treasure the things you have. But the thing about it is that it can burst forth. You can endure a storm of grief without any warning at a moment's notice. It's not... There are quite a few of you, when I mentioned this last time, quite a few of you emailed me and texted me and mentioned that you have never experienced a severe loss, so you don't really know what I'm talking about. And I envy you, but you will, and when you do, you'll survive it. You are stronger than you think. But it will feel the same way. I've never known anyone that it didn't feel this way for. Storms of grief come upon you. Sometimes when they're unexpected, and you don't get to withstand them. They're much too strong for that. If you did your loving right, if you're doing your grieving right, then they will come upon you and you will just yield to them until it's over. And my answer to this question last time was that happened to me. Well, it was just in the middle of the day, and suddenly a storm of grief for one of my old dogs came upon me. And my answer is the same this time. That same thing happened again, to a lesser extent. Just the same thing, a little storm of grief. It was over in a few minutes, but that's what will do it. Question number 3, do you have kids? No. Deb and I had a bunch of kids, but we decided to pool them all together and sell them so that we could buy Radioactive Man #1. And it didn't work out too well. We fought over possession of the issue, and by the time we realized the error of our ways, the kids were untraceable. What are you going to do? Question number 4. If you were another person, would you be friends with yourself? And Will gave a great answer to this. He said that now, maybe yes, but that in previous incarnations of himself, no. I want to give the reverse. I would probably have been friends. Now, I would probably be friends with myself when I was 18 or 20. But I've said this on this channel before, and I've got a little of what the 21st century calls pushback, but nevertheless, most people my own age are deadly dull friends. I know a couple of exceptions, but mostly I make friends with much younger people. It's just more interesting. They aren't calcified. They aren't all crabbed over with unexamined opinions that they haven't touched in 50 years. That sort of stuff, weeding through that and jackhammering it open so that you can get at the person underneath is often more trouble than it's worth. So I would reverse the Bald Book Geek's answer and say that I would be friends with the younger me, not the me now. Question number 5. Do you use sarcasm a lot? I don't use it a whole lot, no. And again, it's for the same reason that Will gave. He mentioned that he uses it, that he loves it, but that people don't get it. And he's right. In the 21st century, we are developing a society, especially among people who are younger than 30, of people who simply don't understand mannered humor. They don't get it at all. So that if you're sarcastic with someone and you don't immediately guffaw and give it away, they're bewildered. So, sometimes we'll do it, but only with old friends. Question number 6. What's the first thing you notice about people? I'm assuming here that the question is speciesist, and that the people involved are humans, so Homo sapiens. The first thing I notice about humans is whether or not they have a dog with them, and the first thing I notice about people, meaning dogs, is whether or not they're male or female. Question number 7, what is your eye color? Blue. Question number 8, scary movie or happy ending? My answer was going to be that scary movies just don't tend to work on me. I never, in the course of watching them, I never forget that they're a movie. There's some switch that just doesn't flip. I've had many friends who are big cinemaphiles say, "What's wrong with you? Why you're missing so much?" And I bet I am, but something just doesn't happen. I was originally going to say I'd probably go for a happy ending instead, but I just watched a scary movie, just this weekend, about the dark web, and it was very effective. It never scared me. But I really liked watching it. So, but I don't know. I'd probably go for happy ending. I probably like happy endings better, including the great happy ending to The Lion in Winter, my favorite movie, which is full of the most caustic, bitter, venomous family fighting imaginable between Henry II and his wife, Eleanor of Aquitaine, just hammering away at each other with knives and betrayals and emotional blackmail throughout the whole course of the movie. And then they're both brought to the rock bottom, not just figuratively, but literally in the cellar of Chinon Castle, where they've fought with their children, they've fought with each other, and they're in each other's arms, sitting on the stone floor in the middle of the darkness of the wine cellar. And they're ruined. And Eleanor says, "We're jungle creatures, Henry, and the dark is all around us. Look, in the corners, you can see them. You can see the eyes." And Henry stands up, out of nowhere. He's also destroyed. He stands up, he reaches his hands down to her, and he says, "And they can see ours." And when he lifts her to her feet, he says, "I'm a match for anything, aren't you?" And a minute later, when she's leaving, she's going back to prison. He's sending her back to the prison that he's put her in. And they're jousting again. They've recovered themselves just a bit. And as her boat is pulling away, Henry says, "You know, I hope we never die." And Eleanor says, "Me too." And he says, "Do you think there's any chance of it?" And starts laughing, and she's laughing too. It's a happy ending wrought out of nothing in a genius way. But it's not just that. I love happy endings. That would probably be my answer here. Question number 9: favorite smells. Dog. Dirty dog, wet dog, happy dog. Dogs. Question number 10: what's the farthest you've ever been from home? Well, that would depend on where my home was at the time, right? I've lived in a lot of places. I've lived in Venice. I've lived in Kuala Lumpur. I've lived in Austin, Texas. I've lived in Hermosa Beach. I've lived in Washington, D.C. I've never been to Australia, but I have been deep inside, far away from the coast of Antarctica. That would probably count for a lot of it. But it would all depend. I've made my home in a number of places. Let's see here. Question number 11: do you have any special talents? I was trying hard to think of something that wasn't book related. I think I came up with one. I'm really good at spatial arrangement. Like, for instance, if you're moving house and I've got a certain space and I've got a bunch of stuff, I can instantly know how to move them in order to just completely fill that space. But I don't. That could just be a visual thing. That probably isn't much of a talent. Question number 12. Where were you born? There's a large amount of scholarly disagreement about this. There are schools of thought for a number of different locations, both in America and overseas. If there's ever a scholarly consensus, I'll be sure to let you know. Question number 13. What are your hobbies? I love to read. I love to write about what I read. Did I mention I love to read? Let's just move on, shall we? Question number 14. Do you have any pets? Yes, I do. I have a fussy, bossy miniature schnauzer named Frida. Right now, a very rare instance in my life, I only have one dog. But she's a handful, so that's plenty. Question number 15. Do you have any siblings? Yes, I do. Question number 16. What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I'm 28, so I've seen my best years. And I'm perfectly happy with what I do now. One old friend of mine has said for years that it's obvious what I want to do, and that's work at W.W. Norton, my favorite publisher. And we've joked about how, A, they would have to agree to let me review non-W.W. Norton books to my heart's content, and B, I might want to negotiate with them about whether or not I absolutely positively have to wear pants. I'm not a big fan. Don't have any on now. But if in an ideal world, I would probably want to work at W.W. Norton. They're the only publisher I know in America whose list is always great. All other publishers, you can see immediate weak spots in their seasonal listings, but not Norton. Not Norton. But I think I'm well past the sell by age to be hired by anybody. Let's see here. Question number 17. Who was your first best friend? He was a dog. He was just a tan-colored farm dog, and he was wonderful. It was the very first time that I felt love. It was the very first time that I learned anything. It was the very first time that I started to put concepts into the abstract. It's learned my physical limitations. He was wonderful. He was wonderful. And as the dog and cat people out there will know, this is the odd thing, the odd unspeakable burden that we have that people who aren't dog or cat people don't have, which is that I can tell you all sorts of things about my first best friend, including being with him when he died. And same thing with my second best friend and my third best friend. Yes, raising a child is a huge responsibility, incredibly frightening, fraught with importance that is so long-term that dog and cat owners don't have to deal with it. But the flip side is also true. Someone who decides to have a family of children, a boy, a girl, then another boy, and raise them in the suburbs and in the city, and somehow find the money for their schooling and their health care and whatnot, can be reasonably confident they will not see those children die. And we do not have that. We, in fact, have to go through that. But anyway, it was a dog. Question number 18. How tall are you? I'm 6'1". Question number 19. Funniest moment throughout school? There were no funny moments. Steve did not enjoy school. Question number 20. How many countries have you visited? I don't have an exact number because I don't know how many of them are still extant. I think it's over 200. But only because quite a few of them no longer exist. And so it's a large number. I haven't been to Australia or New Guinea. Otherwise. Question number 21. What were your favorite worst subjects in high school? Worst was anything to do with math, and favorite was anything to do with the written word, English, history. Question number 22. What is your favorite drink, animal, and perfume? My favorite drink depends entirely on the circumstance. If I have friends over here at Hyde Cottage to talk about books until the wee small hours, it's cheap red wine. If I've had a hot, preoccupied day walking around doing errands, I come back here and settle Frida and settle myself. It's a nice, cool glass of water. There's no one all-purpose drink for me. My favorite animal, of course, are dogs, with humans coming in a distant second. And my favorite perfume, even if perfumes were not the product of torture, which they are, no matter what their companies tell you, I still wouldn't have a favorite one because only a human humans have an almost vestigial sense of smell. It's almost non-functional at all, and I don't. And if you could smell what perfume really smells like, you wouldn't have a favorite. It's just grotesque. It smells just grotesque. Believe me, it does. It is meant to smell in good or interesting or soothing or provocative ways, only to a very poor sense of smell. And you have a very poor sense of smell. So, like, for instance, you can see it in every aspect of human life. Adult parents, early 40-something parents with a kid who's a young teenager, kid will spend the afternoon smoking with his friends after school, pop a breath mint in, come to the kitchen table, and the parents won't even know. They won't have any way to detect what is obvious from literally half a mile away to any non-human animal around the kid. So no perfumes, thanks. Let's see here. Question number 23. What would you name your children? Well, Deb and I have never kept them long enough to name them. Little irritants. Question number 24. What sports have you played? I've played a great number of them, but I don't have any interest in them at all. Not just because I've never seen the point, but also because one of the prerequisites for enjoying most team sports is sublimating your identity to the team, and I'm not good at that at all. It's a complete failure. So tennis, I used to love playing tennis, but I was never any good at it. Question number 25. Who are some of your favorite YouTubers? The Bald Book Geek answered this with booktubers, but it doesn't say booktubers. That's just a persnickety. I thought I would just answer mine with YouTubers. I just jotted down 3 that came to mind. The first is Mr. Mobile, from right here in Beantown, who does a tech channel, tech reviews. Really, really smart, really, really insightful into what's important and what's not, what to look for and what not in a whole host of products. Really worth bookmarking his channel and just looking to see, if he's reviewing something you might be interested in. The next one is Isaac Arthur. I've mentioned him on this channel before. He does long, extremely thoughtful science videos. Not largely studying science as it is, but rather science speculation. What it would actually be like to colonize Mercury or to go to other worlds. His long sequence of videos on possible solutions to the Drake equation, to the Fermi paradox, are not to be missed. They're incredible. He goes through every possible permutation of them. They're amazing. His channel's amazing. I'm so happy that it's succeeding because he puts a huge amount of work into it. And the third one that came to my mind is not actually one person. It's the channel for TED Talks. Those of you who might be blissfully unaware, maybe you're not American, TED Talks are events that pop up all over where a person with no recognizable expertise and no actual knowledge of what they're talking about gets on a darkened stage with a backdrop of slides and lectures about that subject to an audience of biddable idiots with lots of money. And the results, the results are universally hilarious. Just hilarious. Except when they're infuriating. Sometimes these people actually try to act like they're insightful, complex thinking gurus. And that drives me nuts because they're not. They're one of the most popular TED Talks on YouTube, in fact, is by a woman who does a TED Talk on the liar sitting next to you. On how and why people lie. She spends the first 15 minutes of the 16-minute talk spinning silly generalities that mean nothing, examples that she throws up on the slide that could easily be countered with 100 other examples that show the opposite. And then at the end of her talk, in the standard TED way, she fires off a whole bunch of things. Your feet pointed towards the door when you're lying. You look over to the left when you're telling a lie about yourself, the right when you're lying about something. Every single one of the assertions that she makes in that rapid-fire info dump at the end, every single one of them is wrong. There's nothing to any of them. They are, in fact, ironically enough, all lies. Stuff like that drives me nuts, thinking that these, Sacramento billionaires are going to leave the audience thinking they finally got a handle on why and how people lie when the person on stage knew nothing. But generally speaking, they're funny. Question number 26. How many girlfriends or boyfriends have you had? None. I've never understood the girlfriend-boyfriend relationship. I've never understood what it actually is. In college and in high school, it seemed very much to me to be a euphemism. It seemed like you were someone's boyfriend or girlfriend as a euphemism for sex. That's what it was all about, and that you did the rest of it in order to guarantee that. That seemed to be at the heart of things. And after high school and undergraduate, boyfriend and girlfriend seems to be just a warm up to, are you compatible to be married? And so I've never understood them. I've never understood the experience of having a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I've had all sorts of deeply passionate relationships of all kinds, but never anybody that I would have called a boyfriend or a girlfriend, so none. Question number 27, your favorite memories from childhood. They all involve dogs. All of them do. Sleeping on dogs, sleeping in dog piles, playing with dogs, running around with dogs, all of them. Sorry, that's very boring, but we're almost near the end here. Question number 28, how would you describe your fashion sense? Question number 29. What phone do you have? I have an iPhone 6. Sleek thing, rounded edges, came with a screen protector, fits nicely in the hand. Just wonderful, wonderful machine. Just wonderful. Can do so much. Oh my. And question number 30. Tell us one of your bad habits. I've racked my brains, and if someone else would have to tell me, I don't have any of the typical bad habits. I don't have any chemical addictions. I don't chew my nails. I don't pace. I don't crack my knuckles. I don't crack my neck. I don't have any of the tick kinds of bad habits that people tend to think of when they use that term. So if I have one, I don't know what it is. And it certainly can't be that bad, or I think I would have noticed it and corrected it. And that's it. That is the Get to Know Me tag. And all's left for me to tag people. I have a few people that I want to tag. Will, at the end of his video, tag Dave Wild at Wild Reads, which is a great idea, and it automatically made me think that why should I stray far from the family tree? Dave Wild's nephew just started a BookTube channel. I believe he is our very first booktuber on a boat. So I tag him. I don't know if he does tags. I don't know if he's going to do more than one video, but it's Dann Ball, and I'll leave links to all of these channels down below. But I tag him. If you're watching, if you want to do this tag, I'd love to do it. Also Roz at Journey Through Books, because why should I ever let up on her? Why shouldn't she have 5,000 tags from me to do? And Mark at Richardson Reads, that'd be a lot of fun. And Paperback Junky. I haven't tagged you in a long time. So if you feel like doing the Get to Know Me tag, I would love to hear it. And that's it for now. I'm gonna wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.